Okay. Thank you.
As bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago.
You know, I'm sorry that people want to make a spectacle of themselves by claiming that they're going to leave the state. Look, if you want to leave the state, I would like you to stay. I'd like to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth. So take note. That is what this is all about.
So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control.
Yeah.
We got a couple of things to tackle here this morning. That's just a smattering of stuff. It's Illinois in Focus Daily on this Friday. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. Note, I am off Monday. It is Labor Day, so we'll be back at it live on Tuesday. But plenty of stuff for us to wrap up and get out for you for this coming weekend. So we got to tackle something Governor J.B. Pritzker said yesterday at an unrelated news conference in Southern Illinois. He was asked about the contingent of the state that's looking to either split the state in two, or you've got that movement in Indiana that's wanting to wrap up and grab parts of Southern Illinois. And the governor essentially said if people don't want to stick around and help make the state better, they can pick up and move. So we'll hear that, and also hear from G.H. Merritt from New Illinois. Got her reaction last night to the governor's statement. But we also got to get to the latest back and forth between the White House and the Pritzker administration on public safety, and an allegation that Pritzker made that he says the whole guard and public safety push is Trump trying to interfere in the 2026 election. So we'll hear that as well. Again, this is Illinois in Focus Daily. TheCenterSquare.com is where you can get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Just simply go to newsletter, click on it. You could sign up today, get that tomorrow, or you can find all kinds of other headlines here each and every day, updated regularly, not just Illinois, what's going on in Washington, D.C., and what's going on in other states. Plus, you can get the podcast as well of this show. And don't forget, we've got the weekend edition where Jim Talamonte and I, each and every Thursday, we record to get something ready for you. So that's going to be out this weekend. Plus, if you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, you'll get a best of sorts from stuff we've talked about all week in the different segments with the live show. So plenty of stuff for you to get informed with, opportunities for you to tune in. It's right here with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square, and we'll talk about public safety next with Governor J.B. Pritzker making an allegation that President Donald Trump is trying to interfere in the 2026 election. Stay tuned.
As bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will.
In 2026, he wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth. So take note. That is what this is all about.
So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control.
It's the back and forth between the White House and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday, and we'll bring it to you here each and every weekday morning as it happens with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, the editor of the Center Square, Illinois, where you can go get these headlines and more. But as you see the top headline there, Pritzker claims Trump plans election interference with troop deployment. The governor making these statements in reaction to the White House's continued prodding of public safety in Chicago. 2 weeks ago, the president announced that he was going to deploy the National Guard in Washington, D.C., which he has the right to do as president. It's just a district, it's not a state. And he claims that in the past 2 weeks, he's cleaned up crime there. Thousands of arrests, dozens and hundreds of guns taken off the street, or whatever statistics they're providing. Essentially, they're saying that they're cleaning the streets up. But he also said Chicago is next, and that sparked a flurry of debate in the public about the use of the National Guard for public safety when you have posse comitatus. It's a longstanding law that essentially says the military can't be used for domestic law enforcement unless there's certain conditions met. And one of those conditions could be a governor requesting and cooperating with the federal government and the president's administration to assist in law enforcement. Caroline Leavitt yesterday, she's the White House press secretary. First question out of the gate was about Chicago crime and how the administration is going to address that with the apprehension of, like we've heard and highlighted all week this week, of the Democrats in control of Chicago and Illinois not being willing to go along with the push to have federal officials come in and help with public safety. Here's Caroline Leavitt talking about what the administration hopes to do.
It is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again. And I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago. It's a great place to live. There's no crime there. He doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ, and the statistics beg to differ. And I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like DC, come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will.
So again, Leavitt saying that Pritzker needs to call the president and request this. And again, the president having said Chicago could be next, and there's even continued reporting on the naval base Great Lakes to be a staging area. Tom Homan was just on Fox News talking about the increased efforts that federal officials through immigration, they're going to be coming in to Chicago even more, and highlighting, saying, hey, we're making the streets safer in Chicago. Chicago, if you don't want to help, get out of the way. He's said that before. So Governor Pritzker was at an unrelated event in Southern Illinois, doing some ribbon cuttings, and then he took part in an announcement of investments that are going into parts of Southern Illinois. So he was doing some Q&A, and obviously that has some off topic, and he was asked to talk a little bit more about the issue of public safety in Chicago and the prospect of using the National Guard.
Well, yeah, let me just be clear that when the President of the United States is not following the Constitution, when the President of the United States is going to break the law, there's a law called posse comitatus that keeps the President from calling troops into an American city unless there is an insurrection. That's not happening in Chicago. That should be a concern to everybody throughout the state of Illinois and, frankly, all over the country. If the president wants to help us, he should help us hire more police. I've done that as governor, but we should absolutely be promoting more police hiring in cities like Chicago and all across the state. He ought not be taking money away from violence prevention programs that the federal government had been funding, but now they're taking that money away. And by the way, why are they doing that? Why is he defunding the police? Because he wants to give major tax breaks to the wealthiest people in this country. It's not right. He needs to be called out on it. I'm doing that. I hope more people will as well.
So the governor's saying that, he wants more police, and that's something that even Caroline Leavitt said. Maybe there's some common ground here between the White House and the Pritzker administration. How can the Pritzker administration benefit from that cooperation with the White House? I'm not sure, but somebody's going to have to pick up the phone.
The president has certainly been very successful in recruiting federal law enforcement. If you look at the ICE recruitment campaign that was led by he and our Secretary of Homeland Security, we've seen more than, I believe, 130,000 applicants to join ICE, which is just amazing. There's more applicants now than there are jobs to fill, and we're very grateful for that. Clearly, Americans want to serve their communities. They just need a leader who encourages them to do so. So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal, to do their jobs, to arrest criminals, to put them behind bars, and to remove public safety threats from American communities. He'll continue to do that. Thank you, guys.
Governor Pritzker, again, at an unrelated event yesterday, was asked multiple times about the back and forth between the White House, and he then, when he was asked a second time about the prospects of National Guard troops being in Chicago, Pritzker made an allegation without providing any evidence.
The Trump administration has not contacted me at all whatsoever. Nobody in my administration. They're just looking to invade the city of Chicago, not coordinate with law enforcement, who they ought to be coordinating with, not coordinating with the state of Illinois, the governor, or the mayor of the city. So this is a part of his plan to do something really nefarious, which is to interfere with elections in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth. So take note. That is what this is all about. Now, just stepping back, the president, and let's talk about the press secretary for the president, doesn't seem to understand that it's actually Republican states that have the crime problem. That of the 20 states that a red state, that voted for him, rather than a blue state that didn't vote for him, we understand why. He is a partisan. He's somebody who believes in attacking people who didn't vote for him. When you're president of the United States, just like when you're governor of the state of Illinois, you represent all the people after the election. Your job is to deliver for Republicans and Democrats alike. That's not what this president has done. Instead, he's attacking Democrats. He's attacking Democratic states. We're going to do our best to push back. I think I've been doing that loudly. Other Democratic governors and senators have been doing so. But I'm proud of this state. This president does not understand that we actually have a declining crime rate. In the city of Chicago, it's gone down. For example, the homicide rate in the city of Chicago over the last 4 years, down 50%. I mean, that's more than most of the big cities in Republican-led states. So proud of the work that's being done. We've got more to do. We've got crime on the streets. Any person that gets killed or hurt is a victim of crime, is somebody that we ought to be addressing the challenges for. And we're doing that every day. But the way to do it is with police officers, not with troops.
So we'll see what kind of common ground the Trump administration and Governor J.B. Pritzker can find when it comes to getting more law enforcement. Because, some of the estimates are that Chicago is short 1,500 police officers. Earlier this week, we saw Brandon Johnson tell Joe Scarborough the city of Chicago needs more public housing or affordable housing. And he was asked multiple times, could you use more police? And well, that didn't really get a straight answer on that. So we will keep coverage of this. Go to thecentersquare.com, and if something breaks, we'll be on top of it. Get the newsletter in your inbox, thecentersquare.com. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, each and every weekday morning with you. Program note, we're off Monday for Labor Day.
I'm sorry that people want to make a spectacle of themselves by claiming that they're going to leave the state. Look, if you want to leave the state, I would like you to stay. I'd like you to get involved and make it a better place by working together with us. But if you want to leave, then get up and move.
Gosh, where do I begin? He says, make sure your voice is heard. Well, unfortunately, our voice isn't heard because he's gerrymandered this state to death.
That's Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about a movement of people wanting to split the state into two, saying if you don't want to stick around and help, just move out. And G.H. Merritt, the executive director of New Illinois, one of those movements that wants to split the state into two, saying that the governor just doesn't get it. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here. The live chat's always popping, so you can go and join in there. But obviously, you can get the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. So yesterday, the governor had two events in Southern Illinois. First one, not really many off-topic questions. The second event, there were some off-topic questions. Previous segment, we talked about the governor responding to the continued prodding of the White House to focus on public safety in Chicago. Well, the final question he got yesterday, again, at an unrelated event, was a Southern Illinois reporter of sorts saying that, hey, there's a lot of people across the Southern Illinois area that want to split the state into two. And I think actually the question was they want to become part of Indiana. That's conflating a whole bunch because there's different movements here, as I'm finding out as I continue to report on this, right? So you have the dozens of counties across the states that have non-binding resolutions that they've been voting on for years, like the past 7-10 years or so, it seems. They've had these non-binding resolutions come up, and overwhelmingly they win, essentially saying that, hey, they want to split the state into two, leave Cook County by itself, and let's make a different state. Then you have another effort. That's the New Illinois effort, and they're actually trying to get a constitution put together and to get legislators on board and to have that conversation to where they could just pass a resolution in the state to have Congress then act to create a new state. So you've got that effort as well. Plus, you've got another effort of Indiana that has passed a resolution creating a bi-state, commission to investigate redrawing Indiana and Illinois lines. Illinois not taking part in that, but Indiana did pass that. It was signed into law. That commission has been created, and we'll see what happens there. But those aren't all the same. They're not mutually exclusive. They're operating on their own. So you just got to be careful when you're talking about these things to understand that there's multiple paths here. And this is not something that's just happening in Illinois. It's happening also in California. And if you go to thecentersquare.com and go to the California page, you'll see some of the reporting there, as well as some Republicans in California have looked to try to split the state into two. So you can go and read more about that, along with other efforts in California. But back to Illinois in focus here. You've got the governor being asked about this in Southern Illinois, and here's his response.
Partisans and people who don't support the fact that this is mostly a Democratic state are looking for any way to get attention. And so they talk about and push the idea that somehow counties in Illinois are going to leave, get up and join another state. That's not going to happen. That's not how it works. If they really want to get involved, they should actually show up, vote, make sure that their voices are heard. I've done that my whole life. I think I've been in areas, lived in areas that were Republican controlled as a Democrat. You got to speak up. You got to talk to people. I listen to Republicans all the time. You have a state senator here, Dale Fowler, who's been a partner of mine in bringing economic development to the area, bringing more investment in our state parks. And we've worked closely together. We believe in, that roads, state parks, these are not partisan endeavors. These are bipartisan things that everybody needs, no matter what party you belong to. So I'm going to continue to act in that fashion. And, I'm sorry that people want to make a spectacle of themselves by claiming that they're going to leave the state. Look, if you want to leave the state, I would like you to stay. I'd like you to get involved and make it a better place by working together with us. But if you want to leave, then get up and move. And there's no chance that you're going to pick up a county and have it join another state.
Illinois obviously
you
has
very
seen outbound migration for 10 years straight. And the only reason for the 11th year we didn't see that was because we had international migrants coming into Illinois, exceeding the number of domestic residents that were leaving the state of Illinois. So people are leaving. They're choosing to pick up their belongings and go to another state. People are even moving from Illinois to New York. But you've got people moving from Illinois to Florida and Texas and Missouri and Kentucky and Indiana and so on. So obviously, there's that it's already happening. But the governor's saying that, and in the past, he's denied population decline. But now he's saying if you don't want to stick around and help, go ahead and move. Well, I reached out to G.H. Merritt. She is the executive director of New Illinois. It's an effort that's been around for about 7 years. They've got a constitution drafted, and they're working out different types of issues to try to get legislators on board with the idea of splitting the state in two. And it's a very arduous process in the politics of it all, definitely playing into account here. But I shared with G.H. Merritt Pritzker's comments from yesterday afternoon, last night, and she had this to say about what the governor said in front of news cameras.
Gosh, where do I begin? They have so many thoughts about this. My first thought, of course, is that, you've got a state where right now there's 70 of your 102 counties have a state split movement going on. Either they voted for the referendum or they have a New Illinois county committee or both. One would think that if you're at the helm of a state and this is going on, you would at least be a little curious about why are these people thinking this? Why are these people wanting to do this? He has no curiosity about that. He makes assumptions. He makes the assumption, he says, oh, well, you got to get out there and vote. Well, there are many, many people in this organization, and I'm willing to bet that all of them vote every time and have for years because they are committed citizens and residents of the state. He says, make sure your voice is heard. Well, unfortunately, our voice isn't heard because he's gerrymandered this state to death. And I found it preposterous and sad that the legislators from Texas came to Illinois and under the protection of J.B. Pritzker, who stands up and acts all sanctimonious, like he wants to make sure people's voices are heard. And you compare the gerrymandered Texas map to the Illinois gerrymandered maps, and Texas is amateur compared to Illinois. And so, we aren't a partisan group. That's another thing that he gets wrong. He gets it wrong because he doesn't care, and he's never asked. He's never sat down with any of us to find out what the story is. And the story is that in the state of Illinois, if you don't live in Cook County, you have no voice. And it dates back to Reynolds v. Sims, where they changed the way that state senate's seats were, the districting was done. And Everett Dirksen, our late great senator from the 1960s, warned that in any state with a sizable city, all the power of state government was going to be absorbed into that city, and the rural people would lose their voice. So I think that he's very disingenuous. He pushes for things that may be great for an urban area, but they're not great for rural small town areas at all. But if you care, Governor Pritzker, about people having a voice in Texas, why don't you care about the fact that many, many of the people in this state have no voice because you've stolen it?
And G.H. Merritt, the executive director of the organization New Illinois. And I asked her, listen, I mean, you've got the governor saying, if you don't want to stick around and help the state improve, then you can go ahead and move. And here's what she had to say.
Well, and when we started this organization, I started it with a guy named Jeff. And my husband and I were thinking about moving, and because it was like, hey, I don't know where we're going, but we ain't staying here. But my father built my house, and he had since passed away, and I didn't want to sell my house. And it was like this epiphany moment of realizing that the corrupt politicians in the state were pushing people out, including me. And so I decided, and Jeff decided, that we were going to stay and fight for our home. And so he really doesn't know what he's talking about. And he also says this is never going to happen. Well, we've been watching the state of Illinois for 8 years now, and we see that you are on a path toward going over a financial cliff. And as you get closer and closer to that cliff, we believe that we'll be able to negotiate with some of the people in the legislature, because the fact is a resolution doesn't require the governor's signature. So that's all I got to say. We're not giving up because he says it isn't going to happen. It happened in Maine, it happened in West Virginia, and 3 other states.
And it's also something that's being discussed in other states as well. As I mentioned earlier, you've got the team at thecentersquare.com in California with this headline: GOP legislators propose creating new states from California counties. Republicans are calling for 35 inland counties to secede from California, creating a new state. And GOP announcing that plan Wednesday as their response to Democrats' congressional redistricting efforts. And you can go read that story and even see video of them talking about the rationale behind why those in California are wanting to split the state into two. And it's very similar to the reasons why people in Illinois want to split the state in two. From what I've gathered in reporting on this for years, it's the economic issues. It's the high taxes. It's the lack of accountability to address these issues. It's the social issues, the education mandates, the gun ban, for instance. These types of things that
But the fact is, the states followed the pattern of the U.S. Congress in the way they did their districts. And by taking that away, they did what our founding fathers were trying to avoid with the states. They didn't want the big ones to overpower the little ones, and then the little ones wouldn't have a voice. It's all about protecting the voice of the minority. And so I think that we can have a conversation later about what's going on in California, because I did have a conversation yesterday with Paul Preston from New California. And but yeah, I mean, he still thinks we're trying to become part of Indiana. And that isn't even true either. That's something Indiana initiated. And I might as well tell you, Governor Pritzker, that the reason they're doing that, they know this idea is not going to happen. They know that you'll never appoint the people to this commission. They're doing this to send a message to you and Mayor Johnson that the Northwest section of Indiana has an economy that is entwined with Chicago. And what you are doing in the way you guys are running things is, it's not just hurting you, it's going to be hurting Indiana. And they're trying to get that message to you. Chicago is on its way to being the next Detroit.
Again, G.H. Merritt, the executive director of the organization New Illinois, responding to Governor J.B. Pritzker, saying, well, if you're not going to stick around and help the state, then why don't you just move? As counties line up non-binding resolutions saying they want to split the state into two, and Indiana is looking at redrawing Illinois-Indiana lines, this is going to be an ongoing story. You look at the latest at thecentersquare.com. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. Obviously, those watching live, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but about 25 minutes or so into the show, even though I'm hardwired in with super blazing fast internet, YouTube just decides to lose connection, and I got to restart it. So if you missed out on that little chunk there of the restarts, don't worry. I record the segments locally, so those can be uploaded in raw format, and you can watch that in its entirety with no breaks. Or you can get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus, and you'll find it. And wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for Illinois in Focus Daily. I don't know why the stream does that. It's always like at 8 25 or something. And sometimes it's whenever school's in session, right? I mean, school, I believe, just started up right down the street from where I'm at here. So maybe all the kids are getting on their cell phones and connected to the Wi-Fi there, and that's just eating up all the bandwidth, but I don't know. All right, greatly appreciate you guys. The live chat always lively, and it's good because it helps me understand if I'm having some broadcast issues, so appreciate those out there confirming my feed and letting me know when things aren't doing what they need to do, but also being here each and every weekday morning, so greatly appreciate it. Happy Labor Day, off Monday, back Tuesday, tons to tackle today. So get the headlines by signing up for the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. And don't forget, you can get the podcast, the weekend edition here with Illinois in Focus and the Center Square. Have a great weekend, guys.